My name is Ed Lambert, and I live in Centerville. I got to tell you, the memories of Barnstable is so entwined with all of the people that I was lucky enough to become involved with early on in the late 80s through the 90s up through today. It's the people of the town of Barnstable, working with so many different groups, so many different, not only politicians, but business leaders in the town of Barnstable. There were two things that happened that really stuck out in my mind looking back on it. And one was a time frame in the early 90s when the town had gone through terrific growth of the 80s, which really was reason the Cape Cod Commission was formed. And the town was looking to grow a little bit more, but grow with a very slow hand. And I remember one of the things that the town really was looking forward to was expanding and widening Route 132. But there had to be different steps in doing it. One of the memories that I had at the time, I was working with Independence Park and also with Cape Cod Aggregates. And I remember the time that Senator Henri Rauschenbach called me up. I remember because this is really a turning point for the town, and said, "Eddie, I got the dough." Senator Rauschenbach was referring to a Public Works Economic Development grant that allowed Addicts Way to be built. That was really the precursor of the widening of 132. So it was really a moment in looking back on things that things started really changing for the good back in the 90s in the town of Barnstable. One of the other recollections I had, and this is a political one, Len, was when the town council was looking for different leadership, or people were thinking about different leadership. And I remember Roy Richardson decided to throw his hat in the political ring and run for town council. And I remember the time that an awful lot of us were helping Roy go through the process. And one of the biggest upsets a lot of people thought was beating then President Ted Panitz, and was really Roy's beginning of such a great career that he's had in the town. It was, in one word, an experience. Paul was a complicated guy. He was at one time very magnanimous, and at the other time a really tough businessman. And I was very fortunate to, I met Paul back in the mid-'80s when I was working for another company that was off Cape, the Green Company. And we were talking to Paul the possibility of purchasing some of the land in Independence Park east of Mary Dunn. And I got to know Paul a little bit in the months down here working with that. The sale never went through, but in later years, back in the 80s, late 80s, when I came down to Cape Cod, I started doing consulting work for Independence Park and was there for many, many years. And was able to meet so many different people, business people, politicians from all over Cape, due to my exposure at Independence Park. So it was really Independence Park and my wife who said, "Get down here, Ed, if we're getting married," because she was a native of Barnstable, that really introduced me around, and I got to know an awful lot of people that way. Paul was an interesting character. He was a great actor. And as he used to say every once in a while, you know, that Shakespearean experience that I had as an actor really pays off when it comes to the town. Oh, he was. That goes back to the late 50s when Paul was down here and started the gravel business here on the Cape, the one he had in Falmouth, and really got going on along with others, including Milton Penn, way back when, of parkland properties, what it was called way back when. And they went through a whole series of taking a look at that area to the north and west of the airport as the possibility to become an industrial district. And so Paul spearheaded that along with others on the board, and really pushed that through and tried to get, and it was his baby, it was the love of his life, and it became his passion, both good and bad, over the years. But it was because of Paul that happened. There are so many places here in Barnstable that have that LaRusso name. His son Lyndon died young, from an industrial accident over at the sand pits over at Independence Park, over at Cape Cod Aggregates, where it is now. And over the years, Paul and Lila, for years, put together the foundation, donated so much, as you said, from the college to the hospital to schools, the Cobb Trust, an awful lot of different things. My first job was working at Independence Park. At the time, I was living up in the South Shore and had my own consulting real estate business. I'd been involved with real estate development for years. And because of my past relationship and knowing Paul, reached out, and at the time he said, "Ed, I need some help, all right? I got to get some help. The town's killing me." I mean, Paul used to love to say that. So would you be interested in helping out and coming as a consultant to try to forward, we were going through an environmental review process at the time, to forward that work with the town and see if we can't push forward his dream of developing Independence Park. I love it. It's a long time ago. Well, you're a radio guy too, Len, way back when. Long time ago, the then general manager of WXTK, it was Bach Broadcasting, Ernie Bach Sr., come on down. He bought the station, and Kerry Pahigian was the general manager. I was not a radio guy. I'm real estate development. Kerry and I happened to be on the board of directors of the Salvation Army together. And we'd be shooting the breeze back and forth. "Ed, do you listen to talk radio?" "Yeah, I listen to Boston, and I listen down here to XTK." One thing led to another, and he said, "Well, someone's taking a day off. Would you come on in and just sit with and co-host it?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" One thing led to another, and he made me an offer to come in and do the morning show on WXTK from 6 to 10, and that was almost 21 years ago. But he said one thing to me, Len. He said, "Eddie, do this as long as you're having fun. When you stop having fun, it's time to leave." I'm still having fun doing it. It's either 8 or 9, all right, depending upon how you count them. But over the years, I've had short-term co-hosts, long-term co-hosts. It all started off way back in '94 with Bob Zeta. Bob was an attorney out of Falmouth. Bob's no longer with us. But it went from Bob Zeta, Donnie McCaig, Donnie, it's funny, you can't get rid of him. He'd leave and he'd come back, leave and come back. But Donnie and I had an awful lot of fun together as Lambert and McCaig for years. Oh gosh, I've had Mark Giano was a co-host. I had Mindy Todd. Mindy was a co-host before. Mindy always had her sights set, I think, on public radio, and that's where she ended up, and she's doing a great job. Brian Higgins was a host. Una Eitzen was a host for a while. Jen Brian, Gino Montesi. I'm trying to think. Probably I missed some, I know, but those are the main ones. Yeah. It is. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm an independent in my affiliation. But no, I like to think of myself as common sense, but I'm a conservative. I am. And maybe not a right-wing radical conservative, but I'm conservative. Created and stirred, okay. Couple of things. First of all, there's so many different issues, and I served on the board of directors of the Hyannis Area Chamber, of the Cape Cod Chamber. I was involved with a lot of different things in the town, both with the town and with the business community also. The Hyannis Area Economic Development Corporation, the Cape and Islands Community Development Corporation, all the different nonprofits, and our point was to try to build the economy, grow jobs, that type of thing, and how that overlapped. Some very important discussions happened that the town of Barnstable was really a part of, and that was the land bank discussions. Way back when, I'm trying to get the land bank through the legislature. And really through the works down here of Tom George, Attorney Tom George, really when he was representative and really pushing that through. Tom did a great job, but that was a very contentious issue for years down here. It's funny because we talk about what's going on with the town of Barnstable today. You still had all the different problems 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, of homeless, not so much the drug use, which was there, but alcoholism was a big deal, jobs, drug use, traffic. It just seems to build on each other, and not much has changed. Still there. Right now we're a city more than anything else, at least Hyannis is. How did I get to Barnstable? Long story, I'll try to make it short. I grew up in Western Mass outside of Springfield in Wilbraham. Went to high school at Cathedral High in Springfield. After high school, I went to Providence College. Graduated from Providence College in '68. Then I joined the Navy after that. Those were the tumultuous days of Vietnam era. Joined the Navy and spent 29 years in the Navy, both active and reserve, and retired as a captain. I was in the intelligence business. And one of the jobs that I had, Len, was I was a command briefer for the Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet. And what I'd do is I'd get up early in the morning about 3. I'd go into headquarters. I'd go through all of the things that happened the day before, put it together in a brief, and present it to the Admiral and his staff every morning. I find I'm doing the same thing today on talk radio. Getting up early, taking a look at all but this time I put my opinion into it rather than just the facts. After I came back east, back in the 70s, became involved in real estate banking and then real estate development. And that real estate development aspect, working for different companies, led me to Cape Cod eventually. After forming my own company up in the South Shore, came down here, started working for Independence Park, and the rest is where we are today. Garden. My wife and we love to garden, and by garden being a verb. We love to get out there and work in the garden. I fish, we hit the beach, we'll go out in the boat, take it easy. In the wintertime, we both love the change of seasons because each one of them brings something else. There's only one season I don't like, and that's January, February, March, whatever that season is. But other than that, I do a lot of reading, and we get, there's certain TV shows in the wintertime where you hunker down, put a fire in the fireplace, and watch some TV shows, catching up on some of the TV shows. We love that. Kids, we got a Brady Bunch 5, all right? We have 2 children that live on the Cape in the town of Barnstable, in Centerville, and in Hyannis. 3 other kids, 2 of them live out, our daughter Nora and her husband live out in San Francisco. Other daughter and her husband have been living in Colorado for 22 years. They just moved to Buffalo, New York, believe it or not, Colorado to Buffalo. And our son, Ted, and his wife and 2 grandchildren live out in Arizona. They like to visit. That's why we're here, okay? But now they're very happy where they are, and each one of them for a lot of different reasons. We could not live away from the ocean. It's just one of those things that's in your blood, and so we love it here. Wouldn't consider living anywhere else. In the Navy or here? Here. Small boat, all right? We live over in Lake Wequaquet, so we have a floating deck, all right, with pontoon boat. We enjoy that. Fishing and going out on that. Long Beach, any time of the year. All right, park down there. In the wintertime, we take long walks either along the river or coming back. Summertime, it's a great place, great spot to be. I think we do. I know, and thank God they mostly are stable right now, rather than a big turnover. You know, the town of Barnstable, back 25 years ago or a little bit more, was tired, and a lot of different groups, the precursor to the Hyannis Area Chamber, were working on it, downtown merchants. But the real change, I think, when downtown Hyannis came with the Business Improvement District, the push back in the late 90s to get a bid here. And we got involved with that. I got involved with that because of my what I was doing with the Hyannis Area Economic Development Corporation at the time. And a lot of people, Rick Penn and Cynthia Cole and so many others, got involved with that thing and pushed the bid along, and I think it's done a great job. I think we still have, it all depends on the management and leadership of the bid and the people that are involved with it, but I think it's done a terrific job. And right now, the other challenges for downtown Hyannis are, as you know, the homeless, the drug use, the everything from what's happening with NOAA to the Salvation Army, a lot of different things going on, challenges. I think we need a mayor in the town of Barnstable. I think it's come to the point, I think the 13 councilors are doing a great job. The situation going on right now with the town manager and his predecessor. And I know they've talked about it over 20 years ago. I was reading an article, editorial piece by Paul Govin years ago saying Barnstable needs a mayor with reasons for it. I think things have changed enough, but I think it should be on the horizon. I think it's something that we should seriously consider. No, I wouldn't make a good politician, Len. I wouldn't. All right. The problem is, I wouldn't be. You're a school teacher. I don't think I'd make a good school teacher, or I don't think I'd make a good politician. And although at times the powers, the shakers and the movers, one time said, "Ed, we want you to run for state representative. I think it's time for you to run for state." And I said, "Thanks, but no thanks." I'd last 2 years and I'd be out. So I'm good. I'm okay. Surviving Bob? I mean, it was one of those things. I remember when Bob came through, we were just standing there waiting for trees to fall on the house left and right, and just the memory of, oh my God, honey, we made it through Bob, without anything going on. That's sort of a negative memory, but it was an interesting time after Bob came through to see how the town pulled together, to see the devastation that happened in the different villages of the town after Bob came through. But at the same time, it was also the pull together. The people that had chainsaws were like gods, all right? And if you remember the bees that were around stinging everybody and their brother of that shortened summer after Bob came through, that was an exciting time. Probably not the answer you're looking for, but it was an exciting time. Diversity. I think diversity is a huge part of what makes Barnstable what it is. And I'm not talking just about people, but also the 7 villages. Each one of them has a whole separate feel to it. And at times they tug against each other, and at times they pull together. And I think that's one of the major strengths that the town has. So many different people coming from so many different areas of town, whether it be West Barnstable or Cotuit, like being its own town, all right? And the different ways of things pulling together and how they work. At the same time, there are things in the Hyannis area that people want to see responsibilities dispersed a little bit to maybe some of the other villages. And that brings up a yin and a yang that makes for the strength of the town, I believe. God bless COMM, Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mill Station, but that was nicely over-designed and overbuilt, and in my opinion anyway. I think the fire station here, everybody knows we need one. It's just getting it down to the price that people say that this is reasonable and rational. So I think we'll get one. Well, I think it's terrific. I think they've done a terrific job with the museum. I think that in expanding it also over the years, I don't believe, Len, that goes to conservative or liberal or whatever. The whole Kennedy and what John and the family and his mom and dad and everybody brought to this area was something that is a bonus to Hyannis always, and regardless of how you feel about politics. I mean, there are many Kennedy, JFK Democrats around that today you'd probably consider a moderate or almost conservative, as opposed to Ted's liberal lion aspect of things and everything else. So I think it's terrific. I think that that everyone involved with the library has done a great job, really has. Well, it's interesting you say that because the character to Hyannis and the town first changed when the Cape Cod Mall came in. And that was years and years ago. And that was big box, downtown's going to be decimated, et cetera, et cetera. The shopping center went, and I see over the years, I think structured growth, which I consider to be good for the town. BJ's, it took us, I worked as a consultant getting BJ's, and that took forever and a day, but one of the keys to BJ's was getting Addicks Lane in. And once we got Addicks Lane through and constructed, of which I was involved with that, then it opened up so many different possibilities. It opened up the possibility of what is now Home Depot and changing access points. Stop and Shop is in there right now because of Addicks Lane, BJ's. Other corporations took a look at what was happening and the expansion of Sencorp, which is probably one of the largest manufacturing companies in the Northeast here on Cape Cod, where they manufacture machines, they build machines for bubble wrap, all right? And that expansion was huge. But it allowed the whole idea of expansion and structured growth, I think, is good. And yes, there's pros and cons to it. Many people look at whether it be Home Depot or BJ's or whomever as the big box coming in and taking jobs away. But you just take a look at some of the local hardware stores that still are flourishing today, even though we have a Home Depot. BJ's offers to an awful lot of people, offers competition to Stop and Shop or Shaw's or whatever it might be. I think it's good for the town. I really do. And I was disappointed when Costco was not able to get into down in Dennis area. I think that was a mistake, but that was all about competition. Local competing stores did not want them there. I don't think it had to do with traffic or wastewater or anything. I think it was competition. Oh, it sure did. The expansion of Cape Cod Hospital, Cape Cod Healthcare, over to what some people still refer to as the gravel pits off of Addicks, was sorely necessary for their expansion, for the oncology center, for the walk-in patients and everything. And they're still not done there yet. They still have quite a few more square feet yet to build in the future. But I think that was having Addicks and having that ability to develop that area. The Cape Cod Healthcare, Cape Cod Hospital, desperately needed that. I don't think they're going to move somewhere else. I think that that the Four Cs, I think that at some point in time, they've got to build housing up there for students. I think that would benefit not only Cape Cod Community College, but also benefit summer seasonal people that need a place to live here on Cape Cod. The influx of workers for the summer, I think it would be a terrific thing. I think they have the room for it, but once again, you've got to overcome. It's going to be expensive, and I think that's what they're taking a look at. Four Cs is probably a gem for this whole area. Cape Cod Community College, one of the best community colleges I can think of around, and what it does, how it works with the community, how it tailors an awful lot of its courses, whether it be nursing, whether it be aerospace engineering type of thing, mechanics. It's great. It's a good school. Yeah, I don't know. I think that they could, the historic district over there, Kings Highway, I think they could be convinced about housing, because once again, it's traffic patterns and what you're looking at. If you're looking at housing, it can be architecturally nice. It doesn't have to be a windmill, all right? But we'll see what happens in the future. The other thing, I wanted to, excuse me for rambling here, but the other thing is the growth of the Regional Transit Authority and how that's taken off in the past years, mainly because of Tommy Care. And before that, it was a sluggish, we got to get going. And when Tom Care came in, built that up, and now we have the Cape Flyer going to Boston. We have the routes that people use, is a significant addition to the town of Barnstable. Yeah, I think it's great. They drop them off down here, the cabbies, and they're all doing well. And I think it's terrific, the walking population that'll come on down here. And granted, they may be coming down here for a quick stop and then heading out on the High Line or the steamship to go to the islands, but they're still here bringing tourist money into the Cape. Well, that's the place you used to hang out forever and a day back in the days, all right, and raise heck over there. I thought it was going to be more, and I still think it's going to be more interactive with the regional transit center that's there. But right now, it's more parking necessary for the steamship and for High Line. And so I think that instead of building a garage, a 3 or 4 story parking garage, which may be in the future, by the way, depending upon how things go, I think it's Puffer Belly's historic aspect of it. I think they'll keep that, but they need the land for parking. They do. And there's also, and wait, there's more. If you take a look at how you get into the transportation center right now, at the intersection of Old Colony and everything that's happening up there, I mean, it would make sense, don't you think? And this goes to the Cape Cod Commission and the access study from Willow Street and from Yarmouth Road, and 132, to have all of that work together from 132 there going out to exit 7, another way of getting in here. So that's something that's probably in the works when they take the rotary and make it an underpass. My name is Ed Lambert and I live in Centerville.